Today, as part of Spotlight, I want to focus on one of the most important figures in music, Bob Dylan. His career has lasted and has gone through many phases, some great and some not so great, but an undeniable fact is that he is one of the best songwriters in the world. This week is his birthday, so let's celebrate the career of Bob Dylan. He was born on May 24th, 1941. He was named Robert Allen Zimmerman. He was raised on Minnesota until 1960, where he moved to New York to pursue his music career. He was given a chance by producer John Hammond, and with him he recorded his first album, Bob Dylan. But his success came with his second album, The Freewheeling Bob Dylan. That album included the song Blowing in the Wind, and with that he became the voice of a generation in the middle of fighting for changes and civil rights. This album also contained A Hard Rain's Gonna Fall and Don't Think Twice, It's Alright. This is considered a folk protest songs period. His music was mostly acoustic, ranging from subjects like the murder of Medgar Evers to his views on social climates of the world. His next album, The Times They Are Changing, continued placing Dylan as the social voice, an influential songwriter. For a young man, he was already writing songs with deep lyrics, defying the kind of songs that mostly were being played on the radio. Restless Farewell is a clear example, a beautiful song included on this album. And even though the version of the album, in my opinion, does not sound so good, there is a live version on a concert he did in honor of Frank Sinatra that for me is better than the recorded on the album. The title track is almost prophetic in the lyrics and his warnings about how the times will change and we must change with it. His next album was Another Side of Bob Dylan. This album featured most songs that drifted away from the protest songs he was characterized for. Songs included All I Really Want to Do, To Ramona, Eat Ain't Me Babe. The highlights for me are the songs My Back Pages and The Chimes of Freedom. But this album still featured Dylan with his harmonica and his acoustic guitar. But soon that would change. A true artist is not afraid to change and follow his instincts. And if fans follow, great. If not, great also. This is something that the Beatles and Bob Dylan had, and maybe that's why they revolutionized music. Bringing It All Back Home was a defining album, a transition from folk to rock. For the first time, he was backed by a band using electric guitars and drums, a move that alienated some of fans of the folk music genre, but for the rest, it was the beginning of a new and great writing period for Dylan. His lyrics became more interesting, telling crazy stories, and of course, he still spoke his mind. The album features the classic Mr. Tambourine Man, one of my favorites, Love Minus Zero, No Limit. One amazing song is All Right Mom, Only Bleeding. The lyrics on that one is just great. Next came the album Highway 61 Revisited, that include his first song to reach number 2 on the Billboard chart. It's a song that went again all formats. It's a song with no bridge, no guitar solo. It's just verse and the chorus for more than 5 minutes, and the lyrics take you on a wild ride. Of course, that song is like a rolling stone. Described by Bruce Springsteen exactly as that, a song that changed how a song could be written. So this album is completely electric and occasional acoustic songs backed by the band. Desolation Road is a song that shows Dylan's ability to write great long songs. This one lasts over 11 minutes, but never becoming dull or tiresome. Blonde on Blonde is one of his best regarded albums, musically and lyrically is a different album, both for Dylan and for the music at the time. The album features the amazing Sad-Eyed Lady of the Lowlands, a 14-minute epic. This album marks the end of an experimental element in Dylan's albums. And the 60s ended with albums like John Wesley Harding and Nashville Skyline. Both albums, I think they were more country style, and his voice sounded really different, described as a croon kind of voice. So the new decade Dylan began with the Self-Portrait album, which he himself had described as his own attempt to destroy his myth. I compared him to John Lennon. He also became tired of the expectations of the image that people created of him, and just like Lennon, he went for destroying that myth. So then he released New Morning. That for me is not one of his best albums. And this might begin his streak of not so great albums. Even though there were good songs on that period, like Knocking on Heaven's Door, Forever Young, that is on the Planet Waves album. Of course, in 1975, he released Blood on the Tracks. In my opinion, his best album and one of the best albums of all time. He denies the claim that the songs are based on his relationship with his wife Sarah. Regardless if that's true or not, the songs lyrically are great, and on another level for love songs and relationship lyrics. The first song, Tangled Up in Blue, is a masterpiece. Idiot Wind is a raw song where Dylan goes off at a reporter or someone talking about him, even though Dylan claims he's not anyone in real life. His next album is Desire, an album with songs co-written with Jack S. Levy. It is a good album. The thing that stands out is the constant use of the violin and a backing vocal who sings along with Dylan for most of the songs. Hurricane is the best song in the album, written for Reuben Carter, the boxer imprisoned for a crime he did not commit. So the decade would end with the album Street Legal. Not a complete great album, but has some good songs in it, especially Changing of the Guards. So the end of the 70s and most of the 80s saw the gospel period. Dylan became a born-again Christian, and he took his songwriting abilities and wrote powerful songs of conviction and faith. This one was well received, with the song Gotta Serve Somebody winning a Grammy. The album Slow Train Coming was well received by critics and by fans. The album includes Precious Angels and I Believe in You, which both are good songs in my opinion. And I found a quote from Dylan that I found incredible and true and kind of ironic, as he himself says, because everyone regarded him as a prophet. So he began saying, "No, I'm not a prophet." They say, "Yes, you are. You are a prophet." I said, "No, it's not me." So they used to say, "You sure are a prophet." They used to convince me I was a prophet. Now I come out and say Jesus Christ is the answer. And they say, "Bob Dylan's no prophet." They just can't handle it. That was an interview Dylan gave. So this era producer makes good albums, and some not good, and some not so good. Infidels is a great album, and even though it had gospel themes on it, it also had other topics in the songs. Infidels, of course, has a song License to Kill, What's a Sweetheart Like You, Joker Man, that are great songs. In 1987 or 88, he was part of the supergroup The Traveling Wilburys with George Harrison, Tom Petty, Jeff Lynne, and Roy Orbison, and made 2 albums that were very well received. And he finished the decade with the great album Oh Mercy. He then released a couple of not so good albums and some albums that I think were mostly covers. So his return to form came with the album Time Out of Mind. The album feels a little bit like he was focused on the end. So many songs deal with loss. You know, how he thought it was getting dark, how he was trying to get to heaven before they closed the door. So the album at first, I liked a few songs on it, but over the years it has grown on me, and I think it's one of his finest albums. His next albums have been very well received, and in my opinion are some of his best work. And to say that on an artist releasing more than 30 albums is rare. Love and Theft is a great album, including my favorite song, Mississippi. Modern Times follows a similar style to Love and Theft, and Together Through Life is my least favorite of this period. The songs were co-written with Robert Hunter of the Grateful Dead. His last album with original material was the album Tempest, released in 2012. This is a great album. The first 5 songs are really good, and the title song, Tempest, about the Titanic is so great. Even mentioning Leo DiCaprio in reference to the film, he mixed real events with the Titanic with the film. It was really, really, really good. Great at Dylan. And the last song on the album is a touching tribute to John Lennon. So to finish, Bob Dylan is a unique artist. He has lasted as an important figure for decades. Little is known about him because, as far as I know, he hardly gives interviews. But he has released a book. One day I hope to read it and hopefully learn a little bit more. I always say to people that say he can't sing to go beyond that and listen to what he's saying. Concentrate on the lyrics, the stories, and the poetry that are in each of his songs. To me, along with Lennon and Paul Simon, he's one of the best songwriters ever.